this weekend. What up? What up? What up?
Yo,
we are live
what's
on
going
Facebook,
on?
live on YouTube, and we're also live. I feel like I'm too close. And we are live on
our Instagram page.
So we trying a little something. Let's try something new.
Yo, Othniel, what up, family?
What
Already
up?
in the comments. Let's go. Let's
get it. Hopefully the 9 people that are watching us, plus the one on Instagram. Hopefully nobody's at Juve.
Oh man, everybody at Juve.
It's a Sabbath.
Even if you at home, you in New York City. Let's talk about just if you in the city. Particularly, I don't know about the other boroughs, but I know for Brooklyn, for a fact, even if you in your house, you still at Juve because everybody playing music.
Yeah.
From now until
Tuesday, Monday night. Sometimes it goes all the way into, even though Monday is Labor Day.
Yeah, I guess like Monday evening when the parade ends. Because, now they shut the parade down.
That's true.
They shut the parade down early.
It's true. To my New Yorkers out there, people that live up there. Actually, up there. Is that noise getting to you guys as yet? Because I remember when we used to live there in New York, man, there was no sleep. Or if you slept, it was not rested because you're just hearing a whole bunch of noise, music being played outside. So
man, that's when we learned that our daughter knows how to dance.
Not just dance. We know that our daughter know how to whine.
Facts.
There's a difference between like dancing, like, moving your body. And there's a difference between learning or knowing how to whine. And that little girl was whining up herself to the music that was being played outside.
So, if you in the comments, you watching us, you on Facebook, you on YouTube, we want to shout you out. Say what's up.
Shout you out. We already have Cassandra in the chats over here on this on Instagram.
That's
what
right.
Up,
what up, Shay?
What up?
Yo.
Good. She says happy Sabbath. She in her house.
She's in her house. Shay's in New York.
I believe Shay's in New York. Yeah. Right, Shay? You from New York, or you're living in New York right now? So who else is in the comments? Let's go ahead and shout you out.
Come on,
show you some love.
17 people we see y'all watching, but it's all good. We know some people like to watch, but they don't like to say that they watching. Nevertheless, it's all good. So we appreciate everybody tuning in tonight for our weekly. We call this a podcast.
That works.
Yeah.
It's been a while. Like usually I find hard to find words to summarize what it is that we do. But maybe podcast, show,
I guess it is
whatever
a podcast.
It is. But so that is where it's at. So we're excited. Hope everyone had a great week. How was your week?
Yeah, my week, I don't even know what words to describe it. I know I'm tired today though. I feel like maybe it didn't feel like it was exhausting, but it just feels like I'm tired today for some reason.
Huh. Yeah. Tired is definitely a good word to
I feel like I'm happy as the week is ending. Looking forward to a 3-day weekend. Hope y'all got, what's the day? Monday off.
Yes.
Oh,
okay,
okay. Damon Ramsey watching all the way from St. Louis. Big shouts. Oh, Third Speed X, third time watching. Shalom.
All right. I thought you said Third Speed X. I'm like Speed DX, Speed X, Speed X.
Speed X, Speed
Okay.
X. Big up to Speed X.
Thank you for watching and joining us. We appreciate the love. We appreciate the fact that you guys are in this space with us. We welcome you into this space with us. So you have to ask me how my week was now.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
How was your week, madam?
My week was rough.
It was rough.
Yeah, I almost don't want you to ask me. I was just like, when I said, now you asked me, I was just like, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe it's not a good idea for you to ask me.
Okay.
But it was just one of those trying weeks.
It was one of those trying weeks.
Yes, I've come
through the fire. And I've been.
Wait. The note.
Yeah, you get the right note.
No, you get the right note.
You always throw me off.
I'm throwing you off.
Yeah,
Jesus.
every time I sing, you always throw me off. That's why for the public we don't do duets, because if we do duets, Carlene is always wavering. She goes from one octave to the other octave. So I just said, you know what? Let's just leave this part of our marriage out, right? Let's just leave that part out of it.
Wow. So if everyone that knows us, they know you, and they know that unfortunately you are gifted with speaking. You are gifted with doing so many amazing things. Oh my gosh, this is one amazing man. You hear me? Mm-hmm. However, there's just one thing this brother cannot do.
What's that?
And that thing is sing. He cannot sing.
I wish I had
on key. He cannot sing on. He sings off the key well, but he does not sing on key.
I got something for you.
Oh my God! I can't hear it, so it don't matter. But anyway, that's just not his strength, and that's okay. I embraced it. You know, when we were dating, like it was just one of those things. Like I remember the first time, I think we were sitting in church, and singing the hymn, and I was just like, what is that noise, Lord?
What is that noise?
I was like, I know you did say sing a joyful noise, but my God, that thing was like, what? So clearly he does not know how to sing, but it's okay. You know what I mean? Like I'm not hating on, people that don't know how to sing.
Oh, you just came out. You just came out the locker room swinging.
You know what it is? Because you over here lying and talking about I throwing you off.
All right.
We should get the kids in here and talk about how they feel about your singing.
They feel great. Last time I checked.
Oh gosh, they're actually really funny when it comes to their dad and talking about him not singing.
Demetrius said, "You stay coming for my vocal ministry."
Demetrius, do you know Jamie? Do you know him? Okay. That's all I'm going to say. If you know him, then you know homeboy is tone deaf.
Yo, to know me is to love me.
Yeah, I love your tone deafness.
And to accept me. And to accept the truth. And the truth of the matter is, I sense a bit of a little jealousy when it comes to my singing acrobatic style that's just so nice and so fluid, like a hummingbird. But I think it's okay. It's actually not okay to be jealous of your spouse. I actually think that you should celebrate your spouse. So I wish that at some time you would celebrate me, but it's all good. I think I'm gonna celebrate myself. And where's my applaud? And here we go. I'm gonna give myself applause.
Escalated.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Nevertheless, let us carry on, because this show is not about me. This is about us.
It is about us. Mm-hmm. It is about us. And it is about us. And we're about to move on because he can't take the heat. So let's go ahead and
you always see you always got to throw every time it's time for us to move on. You always got to throw a little something in there.
My bad. I'm gonna try to be on my best
really
behavior.
Your bad?
Oops.
Yes. All right. When they go high. When they go low, I go high. Okay. So
okay,
I want
Michelle Obama.
All right. Oh, Othniel's asking for horns.
No, he's not asking for horns. He's like, okay.
All right. Boom. So yes. So, you said you had a rough week. I had a tiring week, but thanks be to God. We here. We in the space.
Praise the name of the Lord.
And it feels good to share this space with you every Friday.
It does.
And I'm happy that you're with me.
Aw, same.
Yeah.
Hearts.
Yeah. Hearts. A big time. I don't do all that stuff, but yeah, hearts. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So here we go. So last week, what was our conversation last week about?
So we're gonna go now to YouTube and to Facebook. So Peace out on Instagram. How do I end this now,
You
Jesus?
think you hit the X?
There it is.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So, last week, what did we talk about last week?
Last week, we concluded with our boundaries series. We were talking all things boundaries and as it relates to the bedroom, sex. And then we talked about boundaries as it related to our children.
Oh, yes.
So we kind of concluded that series of boundaries with those things, and it was very enlightening.
That's right. The conclusion was, as particularly for the kids, please set boundaries for your children because I don't want to deal with them.
Okay. Right. What he said.
Flat.
Okay.
Flat.
What
flat,
he said.
Flat.
What he said. So this week, we decided to talk a little bit about showing up. What does showing up for your spouse, especially in those moments when we know that things are going well for individually, like for ourselves, not collectively as a family, but individually when things are going well, right? All the things we are all doing well, you show up, right? You show up in different ways. It's easier to show up, I think, in my opinion. You agree?
I agree. I think like, what does it mean to show up, right? Like,
Okay, let's start there.
Yeah, like what? Because I think everybody may have a different definition of what showing up means.
True.
Because showing up can just mean just being present. Like, does showing up come with added definition or added, meaning to in a relationship? What does it mean to show up for your spouse or for your partner? So how would you? Well, I guess how would you define showing up? What does showing up mean to you when you're going through something, or not even going through something, when you're doing something? What does showing up mean to you?
Showing up means that I am completely invested in the relationship, in ensuring that the relationship is successful. So it means that especially in moments of need, just being present, being able to know exactly what it is, know the needs of my spouse or knowing the needs of friendships or whatnot, and being able to just be present, right? Sometimes presence doesn't need to take on like being physically present, but it can also just being aware of the other person and possibly what they're going through, and trying to figure out like how I could continue to have the relationship grow or have the relationship continue to be successful.
Okay, yeah.
So what about you?
Yeah, I think like showing up for me has to be being in tune, right? Like being step and step, and to know when to like be, how do I describe it? When to be all in and when to fall back, right? Like being so in tune with that person that okay, I need to step in and pull them out of the sinking water, or I just need to be around and allow them to navigate their way out of the deep, treacherous waters. Like I think showing up depends on, like Shay Andy says, right? Depends on the situation and depends on what it calls for and the person that you're showing up for.
Yeah. So you're right. She says that it sometimes could mean that is just their presence, right? It depends on the situation. Sometimes showing up could mean just their presence, just being present. I think that is important. That's right. Showing up could mean that the person is there for praying for you. It can mean that the person is giving someone a hug. There are different ways or different levels to showing up, depending on what that individual needs specifically.
Yeah, I feel like a show up. Oh, matter of fact, we were watching Swagger.
Yes.
Right. And in the episode of Swagger, when they talked about being a 24-hour person, like I never heard that before.
Right. So explain that. What is it being a 24-hour person?
So like a 24-hour person is somebody who can be there for you all the time, 24 hours. So you're not a part-time person. You're not even a full-time person, because people who work full-time, it's only 40 hours a week.
Right.
But a 24-hour person is like a gas station that don't close. You always have gas to fill up the car that's empty, that's running low, or you got snacks and things like that, right? So a 24, when they said that a 24-hour person, I was like, oh, that's dope.
Yeah.
Because I was like, in marriage or in a relationship,
Yes.
it's so important that you are with somebody who's a 24-hour person.
Yes. Yes. That there is no necessarily time off per se. Not time off, but there's no there shouldn't be a break in how you show up, right? Sometimes you show up in different ways. The same way I showed up in this particular situation may not be the same way I show up in another situation. So, just being present and showing up is so important in a relationship.
Yeah, and I'll be transparent. I think for me as a guy, as a male, being a 24-hour person is different in marriage than it is with, I guess, my boys, or like I always considered myself, I always thought I was a 24-hour person, but being married, and for women or for you, I think it required something more, where I don't know, like for the beginning part or for even parts of our marriage, where I wasn't a 24-hour person, where I was just present, but I don't think I was 24 hours.
Yeah.
I don't think I was in tune with, with everything that was happening or going on within our marriage.
So I think it's important for you to be a 24-hour person. However, I wanted to finish first and then.
Okay, my bad. We can leave it up.
Okay. I think being a 24-hour person doesn't only require your presence, right? Just because you're present doesn't necessarily mean that you are present, right?
Oh, horns.
Because sometimes you'd be like, yo, if you're present enough, then you would say, hey, what's going on? Or how can I help you? What is it that you need help with? Or what is it that I can do in this space for you? And have you kind of not dictate that, but kind of lead the conversation or lead the action, right? Sometimes you'd be like, yo, I don't want anything. I just kind of want you to chill. Just be here. And sometimes it could just be like, yo, I just need to kind of talk to you so you could be like a sounding board, right? So it changes, but it's important for you to be aware of what your spouse or whomever it is that you're showing up for. You must have that awareness of not yourself, but what it is that they want.
Yeah, I get that. I also lean on the other side. Sometimes it's hard to know what another person wants or how they want you to show up. And I feel like sometimes for me, it shouldn't be, but it's hard to ask, how do you want me to show up in this moment? Because the fear is you reacting, or let's just keep it general, or the person reacting and saying, you know me for this long, how you don't know how to show up?
I think it depends. It's so complicated. It is so complicated. It's so complicated because I think it depends on the person, right? It depends on the relationship. It depends on how much trust you have. It depends on the boundaries that you have. It depends on so many of the things, right? In order for you to know exactly how to approach someone that's going through and want you to be present, and you're trying to navigate that space and like, okay, do I say something? Do I ask that question? Or do I assume based on who this person is to say, yo, I know exactly what it is that you need at this time.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's it can be touchy. That's what's up, Speed X says that he likes swagger. Okay. But he says that 24-hour person should only apply to family, not others.
I would even go further. I would
love to know more, Speed X.
Yeah, I would love to know more. But I would even go further. I think when you get married, then it shifts in a sense where it's like your immediate nucleus becomes the 24-hour. Like, because you'll have some, well, I don't know. I really don't know. So boundaries, right? Like, when is it okay? Is it okay for you? That's not the question. Should you be a 24-hour person outside of your marriage?
I think so. I think that I am. I think I can be counted as a 24-hour person outside of my marriage, because I think the dynamics of being the 24-hour person changes, right? In the show Swagger, they weren't married. They were best friends, right? That was his best friend. It was just one of those things like, yo, I got you. Whatever it is that you need, I got you, right? And I don't think that it should only be reserved for your spouse. I think the level the level at which you are a 24-hour person is different to your spouse than like a friend or a family member. It's not at the same rate or at the same, I don't know, velocity. I don't know. It shouldn't be. I think it changes, or it should change.
I think my mental went straight to, when it comes to a 24-hour person, it's like if a friend is calling and it's 2 a.m. in the morning, you got to get up and leave your house to go be with them.
It depends on what it is, right? If they are having a crisis, right, where God forbid someone dies, or like they're having a moment, yeah, I'm going to get in that car and I'm going to go and I'm going to be in that space with them.
Okay.
If we have that relationship.
Okay. And
right.
Now, what happens when it's every week or every...
So that's a little different. Because I think Shay mentioned it, but we were going to go talk about that a little bit different. We were going to talk a little bit about that a little bit later. Boundaries. Like, even though you may have a 24-hour person, and even though you may be showing up for that person or those individuals, you still need to establish your boundaries, like we talked about last week.
Right.
Right. Where we're not just being the 24-hour person, and we're completely being taken advantage of, right? Because there's a thin line between you having a crisis and you're asking me to come, and then there's a difference between you having a crisis every week, sis or bro. You may need to have a counselor, or you may need to have somebody that can really help you in this regard.
Right. I rock with that, because you can be a 24-hour person, but acting like you're a 30-hour person, because sometimes you can be giving so much to other people that you neglect the people that are around you.
True.
Right? Like
or you neglect yourself.
You neglect yourself.
Yeah.
Or you showing up all the time for other people. And that's clearly a person that doesn't have boundaries. Like I think it was mentioned in the comments, that doesn't know how to say no. Like Speed X said, you have to give yourself space to say no.
I agree.
Because like I think sometimes we can get, and particularly too, I'm gonna jump out of the limb, like as Christians, you know, sometimes we feel compelled to help others.
Right.
That we can overdo our helping. Man, and that's like even like, you know, we've heard so many horror stories about pastors who just feel like they gotta help everybody in the church, being a 24-hour pastor.
Right.
And their family is struggling, their wife is struggling, or their spouse is struggling, husband is struggling. And they gave all 24 hours.
Yeah.
to other people and no hours to their family.
I think family should have priority, right? Your family should have they should be your priority. Any and everyone else comes after that, right? So I think it's important to have that balance of being able to show up for those individuals, to be that 24-hour person, but ensuring that family comes first, because
Right.
no one's trying to show up for their outside people, outside of the nucleus, the family core, for other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also too, flip it on the other person, your friend or friends should have enough respect for
True.
your marriage, or matter of fact, not even your marriage or relationship, just enough respect for you to understand and to know, like, you know what, unless it's if it's an emergency, then I get it. But if it's something to be like, you know what, let me respect the time and let me call them tomorrow, or unless it's an emergency where it's like, boom, I need you right away.
Right. Right. So in this article on kindman.co, Caitlin Kinderman, she actually, she's saying that she's coined the new term, showing upness. That's the new, like, she wants everybody to kind of like start using this term as a means of saying that this is how we are showing up.
She needs to go on Instagram, not no blog.
Well, she's probably on Instagram. I'm sure she is. So essentially, she says that the showing upness speaks to one's willingness to put our loved ones and or ourselves first, but people with great levels of showing upness do so willingly and gladly. It requires vulnerability to show others and ourselves that someone or something really matters to us. It also requires sacrifice. It might mean having to delay, lose, or let go of another activity, person, or thing, what we care about. When doing so helps us to better prioritize showing up in a truly meaningful way.
That's good. That's good. I have trouble with showing up in other people's lives. And the reason why I have trouble with showing up,
Tell us,
is because I always assume the worst, and I almost feel like I'll be overbearing. So I'm not the type of person that if you go through something or something happens, I'm not the kind of person that's going to just show up, like, or come to your house or anything like that. I'm going to stand back and wait for you to ask or wait for you to request it. Now, I know that might make some people feel some type of way.
yeah,
But I just take the perspective of, you know, I'm showing up by not being overbearing. I look at it as me showing up as being available. That if you need something, then I'll make sure, I'll try to come through and do it. But I'm not gonna be like, let me not say that all the time. I think most of the time I'm not gonna be like, let me just insert myself in a certain place or situation.
so it sounds like almost like it's coming from a fear, like a fear of.
Yeah, it's like, who invited you? I know you're my bastard, all, but I didn't ask you. I don't need you right now. So
So you're talking about for church, or you're talking specifically just in general, like for your friends?
That's a good point. I think I'm talking about in church. I think I'm talking about in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So for your friends, that's not the case.
No, for friends, that's not the case. For friends, it's pick up. What do you need? Yo, I'm coming through, and then I'll give them the power to say, nah, I'm good. Stay where you at. This is what I need.
So that's good, because I'm the opposite. Usually, just in general. Usually, I think for me, like if there's a need that I feel in the moment that I can meet, I'm going to ask questions after, but I'm going to do first. So if you say, yo, I really need you to do this, or I really need this, or whatever, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do whatever I can to get there, and I'm a show up, right? And I ask the questions after. I'm not afraid for people to let me know, like, yo, why did you drive all the way out here? You're right. So, right. Cause so it is like one of those things like, oh my gosh, like, why'd you drive all the way out here? You shouldn't have come all the way out here. And for me, my response is usually like, yo, I'm here. You know what I mean? Like, even if you say that to me, I know that the fact that I'm here, that for me is like, I showed up, right? So I don't need yo, thank you for showing up or whatever. In and of myself, show up because I think that's how I want people in my life to show up.
So, okay, boom. So you said it. I was going to ask that question because it sounds like you're showing up the way you would want people to show up for you.
Yes.
And I guess I am reacting the way I would want people to show up for me.
That's good. That's good. That is so good. Okay. Comments, those that are watching us, is that the same for you guys? Do you guys feel the same way? Like you show up based off of how you want other people to show up? It's very evident that just came through with Jamie's and I's like,
right. And I think even in our marriage, I think that because of not knowing how to show up for you, I showed up for you the way I would want you to show up for me in some ways. Like, so it's almost like, yo, I'm gonna let you have your space, or I'm right here.
Yeah.
I'm not. Maybe you don't, because I'm not gonna ask you how you feeling or whatever. I'm gonna let you have your moment, your time, and then we could talk. Because for me, I feel like if something happens, I'm okay with just sitting in the space by myself and not talking to nobody.
Yes.
And
just being.
I'm gonna get through it. When I get through it, then we could talk about it. But I don't want to talk through it.
And I'm the opposite.
Right. You'd be like,
I'm the opposite.
Right.
I'm like, hey, let's talk through this thing now. It is hot. It is hot on me. Like if I sit long enough with it by myself, it gets worse. Right? For me, how my brain works, it just keeps thinking and over processing that one thing. Once I get it out, I'm still over processing, but now I'm over processing with knowing that I've gotten whatever it is that I have out in my head out. So yeah. Gina says, absolutely. I treat others how I want to be treated and end up with caring fatigue. That part, right? That part. Whew,
but here's what's problematic about showing up the way you want to be treated is that we don't know necessarily what that person wants.
You don't. You're right. You don't. However, most of my friends, right? My friends, not most, let's just say my friends, I have like a gauge in kind of knowing how it is that they would want me to show up. Okay. Some I would have to ask and say, hey, is it okay if I come by? And they'll probably say one out no particular would probably let me know, depending on the situation. Nope. Nope. I don't want you to come. Just pray or sit with me, or I'll call you later. And that's fine. Right. It's fine. I can pray. I can do all the things that you want me to do. And then there's some where it's just like, yo, they may not be able to express like, yo, I need you to show up, but I can kind of sense I need to move. I need to go. And knowing that in my going, that they'll be like, yo, they'll appreciate me going. So I think it all depends on the dynamics of the friendship. it all depends on the dynamics of the friendship, but I also think that it depends on the boundaries that you have set, right? Because there are some people who are like, yo, they'll just you'll keep showing up for them. And then it just kind of feels like now you're being taken advantage of, right? Where it's almost like, it's like a fine line where you're just like, you know, is this me showing up, or is this me feeling like that either my showing up isn't appreciated, or I feel like it's being like my showing up is being taken advantage of.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm totally, I agree with you. I'm just worried about, when we were just having the discussion and just talking about it and showing up for people the way you would want them to show up for you, how it can be interpreted to that person and be like, yo, you didn't even ask me if I wanted this, or you didn't even ask me if I wanted to be there. You didn't check. You didn't give me the freedom or the right to express how I want you to show up in this moment. That I just wanted you to be present or just available. So, I mean, I think it's good, and I think it can be problematic. So it really, but I like what you said, that if you have a deep relationship with your friends,
Right.
Then you begin to know their rhythms and what they know and what they like. So I get that part as well.
Yes. Cassandra says 100%. I'm more likely to show up how I want folks to show up for me. Over time, though, I've begun to show up the way folks in my core group would want to be supported. Joanna says, I want to be understood. And that's my goal with others. I try to show up by making an effort to understand how they need me to show up. That's good. And, sometimes with friendships or with relationships or dynamics, right? Sometimes, depending on who the person is, they may not have the emotional ability in those moments to kind of say what it is that they need, right? Some people, when they respond to tension or respond to issues or problems, they kind of respond on the defense. Like, I don't want anyone near me. I don't want to be anywhere close to anyone. But then sometimes as their friend, you be like, you kind of see through that. You're kind of like, yeah, I know that's what you're doing, because it's almost like a defense mechanism that you have created, right? And it's like, then I then have to interpret that as, oh, you trying to push me away, when I'm trying to let you know I'm not going anywhere. Like, this is where we are. This is where I'm going to be, right here. And it just takes one of those things, like, I'll be right here when you need me, or I'm just going to show up. I'm in your presence, sit in it with you. And then when it's time to go. But I just think it depends on the relationships, because that joint be mad confusing sometimes.
It does.
Marvin said, you want to read that one?
Yeah, I make more phone calls to my friends more than they call me. More likely to reach out than to get reached out to.
Yeah.
I get that as well. I totally get that. So here's where I'm gonna pivot. So I think we're establishing the fact that showing up for friendships is different than showing up in a marriage or showing up in a relationship. Right? So how do you do you assume, or do you think it's easier to show up for friends than it is to show up for your spouse?
No.
You think it's easier to show up for your spouse? Okay.
I think it's easier to show up for you because I know you, because I ask questions and I observe you. You know what I mean? Like, with friends, it's limited in comparison to your marriage, because you're living with that person. You're seeing that person every day. You kind of know what their quirks are. You kind of know what it is that your spouse is saying and not saying, right? So I think it's easier for me. I think it's easier to show up for you because it's almost like I know exactly, like if you are going through a funk or whatever, I know how to show up. You know what I mean? With friendships, the dynamic depends on the dynamics. It can be a little bit whatever, but that's my opinion. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
What
I
do
mean,
you
for
think?
those in relationships, I think, yeah, I agree. I think that, no, let me say this. I think at first it was difficult.
Because you're learning. You're
Right.
still learning me.
Right, right. And I think as time went on, it's gotten better and it's become easier to understand, because I think at the beginning of our marriage and even in our relationship when we were dating, I felt like showing up meant I had to have the answers. Or it meant that I had to be able to fix it, or it meant that showing that I knew what to do or knew how to handle the situation or knew what you wanted, that was me showing up. But then when sometimes when I didn't have the answers, then I pull back and just be like, you know what? You're going to do you're going to get better, whatever, whenever, or however, then that option didn't work as well. So I think it's like just learning through it. But I also want to highlight this, that showing up doesn't necessarily only mean when something is going wrong. How do we show up when things are going right as well too, right? But I guess it's easier to show up when things are going smooth.
I think it's the other way around.
Really?
I think sometimes it can be hard to show up in those hard moments because it's almost like you're walking on eggshells, right? Versus when in the good moments, in the good times, like, yo, you doing a bomb job, right? Or if you have a speaking engagement or whatever, I can show up. That's easy to show up. For me, it's easy to show up in your wins.
Right.
Because it's natural, right? It's like, yo, I want to see you win, so I'm going to show up.
Right.
But in those moments where it's like really delicate and you're delicate emotionally, it's harder. You don't know how to tread. You don't know how to tread.
Right.
But I do want to give you, your.
My horns.
Wait, I don't want to give you horns now.
Oh.
I mean, like physical horns, like literal horns, right? So the other day, I went through a very difficult thing. And usually in those difficult moments, not usually, but every now and again, like Jamie would in those moments kind of do what he just expressed or explained. He would just kind of leave me and let me kind of mull a little bit in my misery. And then he'll say, you good? Do we need to talk? What is it that you need? Right? Like he'll do that. So in this particular situation, I needed him to show up, not in a, what do let me leave you alone and then I'll come back and let you be. He did not do that. If he did that, I think the situation for me would have been exasperated into this like thing. And then I probably would have spiraled completely out of control mentally, not me doing anything else, but mentally, I think I would have really spiraled out of control. So because we were out, when we got home, I told myself that I was going to go sit in a dark space and just kind of just be, right? And kind of expecting that Jamie would give me that space because he usually gives me the space in the beginning. This particular time, I did not need space. I needed for him to be present. I needed for him to show up. So we got home and we got home. went to the bathroom. I usually wash my hands as soon as we come in and wash my hands. As I'm washing my hands, Jamie says, "You ready to talk about it?" And let me tell you the joy that I felt in my heart from the very pits of my soul, the joy that I felt that he was obedient to the Holy Spirit's moving for him to say what he said. My heart jumped with glee, even though my face looked sad, looked like I was down and out. He listened and he was obedient. And I'll never forget that. You've showed up for me in so many different ways in our marriage, but this one will probably go down as yo.
So
He's that dude. So wait, let me finish the story.
okay.
So Jamie sat with me. We sat on the floor. He sat with me and we talked it out completely. And he did not just sit and just listened. He also was able to give feedback. We were able to go back and forth, and it was such a great, meaningful conversation. And I just loved, I'm giving you a shout out on here. I just loved how you showed up for me in that way, in that space. It meant the entire world to me. And so that feeling that I feel, I always want to impart that feeling to other people, to you and to my friends and family. But I just wanted to give you a shout out for showing up for me.
So thank you for the affirmation. I truly do appreciate that. Thank you, Shay Andy. Shay Andy said horns.
Yes.
LOL. So I didn't know that that's how that made you feel when I said, hey, let's talk. I didn't know that. So thank you for affirming that. And then I also want to say this to anybody watching. That's 15 years of marriage right there.
Right.
Because in year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I didn't know how to do that.
Right. It was conversations were like this.
Right.
The conversation was like, why are you asking me that? You supposed to know that.
Right. Like, what am I supposed to? I don't know nothing. I'm trying to figure it out. But that's 15 years, right? And I think that's the level of intimacy that we have been able to develop with each other.
Yeah.
That, years of me not knowing actually probably showed up that it's a simple ask of, are you ready to talk?
Yeah. That was it.
Like I didn't read it in a book. I didn't I don't even know where I got it from. I just know that
you got it from the Spirit. I feel like the Spirit, that you were obedient
to the Spirit. Yeah. And I think also too, yes, completely obedient to the Spirit and completely moving with the Spirit, but also completely knowing of how you define showing up at the beginning of the podcast, where it's like just being present.
Yes.
And just being in tune.
Yes.
And I think at that moment I was in tune with the fact that you just needed a sounding board.
Yes.
You didn't need a counselor.
Nope.
You didn't need
I told you so.
Or I told you so.
Yep.
Or this is because, or blame you. Just sit in the moment and just listen.
Yeah. Yeah. It was good, y'all. It was so good. It was so good to be seen and to be heard. Because I think showing up, that's why I say that when you show up, it's easy to show up in the good times, but in those moments, you could have easily said, I'm gonna leave you. I'm about to go watch some sports. I'm about to go do this. I'm about to go do that. Send this email, that email. But instead, you decided to sit on the floor. Like you didn't stand by the door, almost communicating to me that you're here, but it looks like you are waiting for an out. Like you're trying to get out the door, but you came and you sat on the floor with me and you just sat in the tension and in the ugliness of it.
So I'm going to say this. Showing up for somebody also means being willing to put yourself in the uncomfortable.
Yes. Ooh, that's good, Jamie. Ooh,
because I think those are the reasons why in the beginning of our marriage, it was kind of difficult to show up because I'm not accustomed to, or leaning into the uncomfortable, like leaning into silence, leaning into just sitting. It's like, I want to be able to move and do something else. Like, it's easy to go distract yourself from whatever the problem is. So when you turn on the TV, you're like, yo, let's just watch a movie. Let's just, play some music. You know what I'm saying? But how do you sit in the uncomfortable?
Yes.
Like, and I think that's an important muscle to exercise when it comes to showing up for your spouse.
Yes.
Like, how do you lean into, because a lot of the showing up that I used to do was within my comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And what I was, comfortable with doing, what I was okay with doing, but how did I lean into your space and make myself uncomfortable for the sake of your comfort?
Yes. Ooh, that's good. That is so good. That is so good. Because I think that in the uncomfortable, people get scared. People legit get like they're afraid of being uncomfortable in those spaces. And the fact that you can kind of deny yourself, right? The deny yourself of that distraction, right? To say, I don't want to be distracted. I just really want to be present. I really want to focus in on what it is that you're feeling, on what it is that you are going through, so that I can partner with you. I can legit sit in this thing with you. It is amazing.
Yeah, particularly too when you're like, you're the type of person that likes it when people are always laughing and people are always happy. It's like, how do you put aside? And so I think it goes back to kind of a little bit what we were talking about before, right? Like showing up how people want you to, not always showing up how you would want them to. Because in that moment, I'll say this, I would have thought that showing up was trying to distract you or take your mind off of whatever's bothering you to let you focus on something good and happy and positive, when that's actually not helping. That would have hurt the situation.
That's right.
Because that's probably how I would have thought, like, like show up for me, like, like dudes, you see it on sitcoms all the time. Dude is having a bad day. Let's go grab some beers and, go watch the game. And dude's like, yeah, man, I really needed this, that kind of talk. So like operating in that mind frame is like, let me do this for you to make you feel better. But it's leaning into the uncomfortable.
I like that. Showing up means leading into the uncomfortable. So back to this article, something else that she said that I actually really loved. And she says that showing up does not mean boundarylessness, always putting others first, nor doing so resentfully or out of obligation. I think that's important. It does not mean showing up when it puts you at risk out of fear of losing a relationship. If it keeps you in a toxic relational dynamics, or because you believe this is the only value you offer, that is not showing up, right? When you have to feel as though if I don't show up for them in this way, then that means that there is no relationship or there's no friendship, right? If you feel like if I don't show up for them, our friendship is going to be lost, or our relationship is going to be lost or damned to hell, right? And she's just saying that always putting others first is not okay either.
Right.
Like, you have to consider yourself.
Right.
And your capacity.
Right. You can't show up for others if you're not good.
Facts.
If you're not taking care of yourself.
Because that joint is just going to be a toxic mess.
Right.
Essentially.
Right.
Showing upness is generous, kind, and loving. It makes you feel all warm and fuzzy when you do it, and equally so when you receive it. So it's so important to lovingly and intentionally prioritize your own needs and engage in actions of showing up for themselves. Sometimes this is the hardest to do. Sorry, I'm going to read that again. This term should be used to describe those who also lovingly and intentionally prioritize their own needs and engage in actions of showing up for themselves. Sometimes this is the hardest to do. Showing up for yourself. Right? You can show up for others, but how do you show up for yourself? That right there is hard for me, especially because I think I sometimes put the needs of others before mine. I find so much joy and I find so much fulfillment in putting my needs second to those of others. And that's something that I'm working through, trying to figure out how to create that balance where I can selfishly put me first and be okay with that.
Yeah. I think it's wonderful to show up for other people, but I'll go back to the gas station analogy, right? That you can be filling up everybody's tank when it gets empty, but even the gas station has to get filled up with gas so that it can continue to supply gas to other people. Even the convenience store, the little store at the gas station has to replenish its stock so that it can continue to provide. So I think, I think it's important for those boundaries when it comes to showing up for people. You got to take time to refill yourself. Like, who's refilling you, right? Like there is a company that comes and refills Exxon, whoever. They come and fill up the gas stations. And I feel like all too often in our culture and within what's been taught to us at church, and even just our hearts, sometimes we can show up so much for people that we're not showing up for ourselves or showing up for the people that are around us, our families.
Yeah. It's challenging. It's challenging. And then sometimes what happens is because you show up so much for other people then don't know how to show up for you. Does that make sense? It's almost like because you show up so much for yourself, because you show up so much for other people, you have not taught them how you want them to show up for you because you're so hyper focused on filling their gas tanks. When it's time for your gas tank to be filled, they're like, your gas tank's not full? Right. Come on, man, your gas tank must be full because your tank is filling my tank. So it has to be full. And then when they realize, yo, I'm on E. Do you realize I'm on E? Did you see that I'm on E? Oh, you didn't recognize that I'm on E because I've taught you that I'm always full because I'm giving. And it always seems like I'm giving from a perspective of always this fullness when I'm actually giving you what I don't have. Mercy, Jesus.
Right. Facts. And then what's going to happen, you're going to break down.
Absolutely.
You're going to break down. So Gary said something that's true. Mothers tend to be like that.
Oh, yeah. Don't get me started.
Yeah, mothers tend to be like that.
Don't even get me started.
So as we're wrapping up, we're getting ready to close out. What are important ways, or maybe your top 3 ways of showing up for you? What does that look like?
How I want someone to show up for me, or how I want people to show up? How I want to show up for other people?
No. How you want people to show up for you. What's important to you in showing up?
Ooh.
Or maybe not. I'm
about to say, like,
let me not put it on you. What do you feel like are the top 3 components or factors or whatever, the top 3 ways of showing up? What would be your top 3?
Dang, I got to think about this. My top 3 would be, I don't know.
If you're giving advice to somebody, what would be your top 3?
Of how to show up for other people? Yeah. I think
or even
being,
or it could be other people. It could be in a relationship or in your spouse.
I think being present, being present, not only physically present, but mind, you're so present and you're so aware of that person that you, at your core, you know this individual well enough to know how to show up. And that requires being present with them. Connecting. I think having connection, being present and also connecting. That connection is important. Connecting with them, whether it's daily, every other day, or whatever, to be able to know exactly like what's going on with them in their lives in order for you to stay present. Right? So being present, connecting, and I think what you said, being okay, sitting in the uncomfortable, being okay with sitting in the uncomfortable with them. And the uncomfort, you being uncomfortable may be, you may be disappointed in not being able to show up for them the way you thought they needed to be showed up to or for. You know what I mean? Like being disappointed, being uncomfortable. It's not about you. It's about how they want to or want you to show up for them. So being uncomfortable with the uncomfortable, being comfortable with the uncomfortable. I think that's it.
Yeah. Those
Ooh,
are
that
good.
was hard.
That was good. No,
I'm sure there's lots, but that was like off the.
There are lots,
dome.
but I think those are excellent. I think those are good ways to start.
What about you? Your 3 ways.
My 3 would be obviously presence. I think presence is important. I also think listening is vital when it comes to showing up. And then I also think being smart about the way you react. And this could probably tie into listening. Like, I think you don't have to have the answers. Showing up doesn't mean you have to show up with an answer.
Right.
You don't have to show up with a solution. You just have to show up and be present. So, being present, listening, and just not being okay with not having the answer to fix it for whatever is happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Going back to what you said about the responding, it's responding rather than reacting to someone's, to what someone is going through. Gary says, reaching out, asking how they're doing, and listening. Marvin says, inspiring others, listening, and presence. Anyone else has any more 3 ways that you want others to show up for you? You can go ahead and also type it in the chat to kind of let us know what your thoughts are with regards to this. But this was a really good conversation about showing upness, according to the girl.
Right.
How to show up. And it's so important to show up in people's lives. Because I really think that those are the things that matters most. Like when you are going through life, it's you need people to show up for you, or you want people to show up for you. So I hope that in everyone's life in this space that you do have people, family that you have that are willing to show up for you in the way that you feel you deserve, and the way that you need to be, that you need them to be present.
Yeah. And showing up in your relationship, right? Like, showing up for the person that you are with and letting that person know you are with them. That they don't have to suffer in silence. They don't have to get through their stuff by themselves.
That's right.
That you are showing up for them because you are a team. Communicate, listening, and be present.
That's good, Melissa. And also, I think the biggest the biggest piece in this is, even though we didn't talk about it as much, but the biggest piece in this is show up for yourself. Not in a selfish way where it's all about you, right? There's a difference between it being all about me and I have to be at the center of attention every single time. That's the difference between seeing that you also deserve to be showed up for. So whether that's you showing up for yourself or or other people showing up for you, especially in those times of need, that is where it's at. Because you can't show up for someone else if you are empty. So
that's right. And remember, your God in heaven always shows up for you.
I can preach.
Yeah.
Yes. That can preach. Amen to that. But this has been a really good conversation, and we can't wait to come back to you all next week. Wait, are we coming back next week? I think we're taking a pause next week.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
If we take a pause next week, it probably won't be live. It'll probably be like pre-recorded live. Where we're just kind of talking about whatever it is that we're going to be talking about. But I know that we probably may not be on live next week.
Okay. You know something I don't.
I do. I be knowing. But have a great weekend. Woohoo! We get a 3-day weekend, y'all. We get to enjoy ourselves, enjoy our families, but also a time for us to kind of reset and relax. So have a great weekend and a great week. We love you all. This is Carlene.
This is Jamie.
Peace.
Peace.
3, 2, 1.